How much does discouragement have to do with success in this case? Isn't becoming a big streamer kind of like winning the lottery? I don't know, dude. There's like a thing. I wish I could like describe better or say why. Human emotions and everything related to them are incredibly nuanced, and I don't know why. Pxie, actually, I learned this a while ago chatting with her. I think I mentioned this on stream, right? We've talked a little bit about stress, right? You should tweet at her and get the book recommendation or whatever. But I've known a decent amount about stress for a long time. That elevated levels of cortisol in the blood over a long period of time can do bad things to your immune system, can cause elevated, what is hypertension? Elevated blood pressure, and then all sorts of like weird hormone fuck-ups. Like stress over like long term is like bad, bad, bad. And I've seen that repeated as much in like a ton of different YouTube videos and everything as well. And Pxie has a book. I wish I could remember what she was reading, but it was basically a book that had to do with the idea that like it marks itself as like one of those like everything we know about stress is wrong kind of things. But basically, I guess the central thesis of the book, or at least that section of the book, was that stress is actually not bad at all for you. What's actually bad is whether or not you feel like you have the proper tools to deal with the stress. And it was strange. It was funny too because like she mentioned that, and I was like, well, okay, but like, what about maybe the only people that have like the tools for it are people that are blah 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 blah. But like there were like 2 or 3 different like exceptions that I could think of like immediately for why maybe this would like correlate but not cause. And but she said like, oh no, like there's a study in the book where they go over this and like even if you control for this or whatever. And it was pretty interesting. And it's interesting because on a purely anecdotal level, I don't say it or like I wouldn't like recommend this, but I vibe with that personally. Like I love stress, or I don't say I love stress, but I love excitement. Like even like getting departnered, like gives me like a very like exciting kind of feeling, and it is stressful, but it's like very fun. It's like a thing to look forward to. I don't really know how to explain why, and I kind of wonder after. Can I put this in here? No, I can't. I think I do need to make a tank. I think it would make this way easier. But after listening to the explanation that she gave related to that, it really made me wonder that like, yeah, maybe stress isn't like an intrinsically bad thing. Maybe it does have more to do with just like, do you feel like you can handle the stressful event? Not handle the stress, but do you have what you need, the tools you need to actually handle whatever event is stressing you out? Which is an interesting way to look at it. I never thought about it before like that. OMG, read my comment. It's called eustress. Destiny, read. It's called eustress. Okay, I've never heard of this term before. Maybe that's what they're talking about. Moderate or normal psychological stress interpreted as being beneficial for the experiencer. Sure. Is it because you can decouple the stress from the excitement? Because you don't really have financial stress? The problem is that it's so hard to explain feelings because they're fucking feelings. So it's hard to say. But like, if I could compare like working a swing shift in a kitchen as a line cook is very stressful. Everything is stressful. You've got to keep track of the dishes. You've got to listen to all the people screaming at you. You've got to make sure that all the prep is out. There's like, you've got to communicate with like 3 or 4 different people. That you've got the lead cook, people at other stations, the dishes from, the prep people in the back, depending on how busy it is, right? There's all sorts of stuff that you're doing. But like going through a whole shift like that and then coming out and doing a good job, like feels satisfying. It feels exhausting in the same way that like maybe going for a jog or coming home from the gym feels exhausting, right? Like it's the difference between feeling like well worked out versus feeling like you've injured yourself, right? Like if you have a good workout, like you're sore kind of, like you have like kind of an ache, like a dull ache maybe, and you feel like well worked out versus like that sharp stinging pain of like, oh fuck, I pulled a muscle, right? And I think that there are different kinds of stresses like that. So like I can think of like that stress of working in the kitchen that felt good. I don't have very many stresses in my life that I think felt bad, except being very financially fucked with Rachel. That actually just didn't feel good at all. But that was like a totally different kind of stress. That wasn't like an excitement thing. It was more kind of like, it was exciting. It was like an excitement, like dreadful kind of thing where it's just like, oh, fuck. Like it's like a different kind of feeling. And that probably wasn't healthy. I can't imagine like being in a stressful situation like that for a long-term period of time. Because when you're super financially fucked, the thing is that like it bleeds over and it affects every single other part of your life. So whether you're talking about like for the obvious stuff, like, oh, can I pay a bill? Is my cell phone on? Blah, 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 blah. But also other stuff like, you know, this guy wants to hang out tomorrow night. Oh, cool. What does he want to do? Because if they want to go out to a certain place, like I just can't go. Like it's or like it stresses like a relationship too, like where you fight about everything that you wouldn't normally because everything is like more stressful and everything. Yeah. So that probably isn't a good stress, but yeah. Okay. I would describe it as despair, like you can't resolve a problem that harms you. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Do you have enough energy for everything you do? For everything I do? I think so, but I think this is really shit, and I don't know if this is the quasi ADHD of my brain talking. I have infinite amounts of energy for things that I enjoy, and I have very, very little energy for things that I don't enjoy, which is just really shit. You can summarize that with saying shit discipline, but if it's something I like, I can work on it for almost an infinite amount of time, right? So as fucking stupid as it is, and as embarrassing as I've stayed up like playing Minecraft since like 6 a.m. for the past like 3 days. That's why stream has been late every day, and that's why if you watch my stream in the morning, I'm always I stream running around finishing up some dumb shit. But it was the same thing with StarCraft too. Like for StarCraft, like I could play that game we probably play that game for 12 plus hours a day for like 2 or 3 years, I think, and I never felt exhausted at the end of like a 15 or 16 hour ladder session, right? Because it was like enjoyable. Somebody messaged me, cortisol in your system for extended periods of time is still physically bad for your body, but in my PHP classes, they said it's a matter of interpretation because physiologically, otherwise excitement and fear are expressed the same. So this is almost exactly what I said. Because my counter to her was that like, no matter what type of stress it is, that physiological response, the elevated amount of cortisol in your blood, that's just bad for you. It doesn't matter what your mind thinks about it. But apparently that's like measuring cortisol levels over time. Was it like, I want to say there's a longitudinal study, but they did that. And the health outcomes, regardless of the individual physiological stresses, the health outcomes were actually totally different based on whether or not the people thought fuck, I should read this book before I quote it so hard, because maybe it might just be a whole quack science book, because it obviously, like, this book's super challenged, like, everything that I've thought about, and I'm just giving you somebody else's interpretation of it, right? Maybe she misunderstood something. But, like, obviously, this, like, super challenges everything that I think about stress, because I've never heard stress described I've never heard long-term stress described in positive terms. Usually that's almost ubiquitously described as being, like, a really negative thing. Was it really described as positive, Destiny? It seems like a neutral stance from what you described. I don't remember if it was neutral or positive, but even neutral would be like a pretty big deal, because if you can, like I said, like everything that I've read or heard about stress is that elevated cortisol levels over a long period of time do bad things to your hormones, do bad things to your heart, just bad things to your body, immune system. I've heard that. Like those are the three I think I usually hear. Controlling cortisol could be key to solving diabetes, for example, because it helps regulate sugar in blood. Maybe. Our hormones all kind of like play with each other. It's like pretty complicated. One of the things that makes biology such a shitty, or medicine, I guess more specifically, and health such shitty sciences. There's so much fucking shit going on. Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.